Hi, it's Todd of Todd's Workshop here, and today I'm going to talk you through this Schnepper Crossbow. So this is a German style of hunting bow, dated to end of the 17th century, really, mid-turn 17th century. What's interesting about it is the trigger system, and I'll take that apart and I'll talk you through it. The first thing you're going to say is, what the hell are those pom-poms all about? Simply put, I can't tell you. I really can't. They're weird. They seem to serve no function. They're not anti-vibration. They're not camouflage. These ones happen to be green and white, but decoration, pure and simple. That's the only thing, the only reason that I can see that they're there. It's just a style thing, you know. Flares were weird in the 70s. Pom-poms, they look weird on a crossbow now. Really cool back in 1682. Steel bow. This is fairly lightweight. It's just over a 200 pound in draw weight. Safety cords on there, just in case the thing breaks. It won't, the way I harden and temper it, but historically it was an option. Then you've got the front here, you've got a little steel staple ring, and that goes with the cocking lever. I'll show you that in a bit. You've got a little carrier here for the bolt, a bridge, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's basically two little fingers that stick up and they just hold the end of the bolt so that the bolt is touched at the back here, and it lifts the whole way off. So you're reducing friction an awful lot between the bolt and the deck. It also means that it sort of helps the accuracy a little bit. Then you've got a bolt clip. They stop the bolt falling off the bow, so quite clearly they're useful. Then there's a rear peep sight. There's no front sight. Now, this doesn't have a foresight. It only has a rear sight. But as long as your cheek is in the same place each time on the bow stock, then your eye returns to the same position. And so actually, you only need one set of sights. Two sets of sights help, one set of sights is adequate. And on the basis that crossbows very often had no sights at all, that's really quite exciting. We are now developing a more modern trigger system, something much more akin to what you would expect. Now this here, that looks a lot like a trigger, is not. That's a setting lever. The trigger is this straight one here. They haven't actually got to grips with making it curved and sort of ergonomic around the finger yet, so it's just a straight little bar. You've got effectively like a rear gun stock here, really. So it sort of curves around, very funky, very groovy shape. But that is now the beginnings of sort of gun stocks on crossbows, because gun stocks on guns were there a lot earlier than they were on crossbows, and really only through the 16th century did they start to think about moving crossbow stocks towards the contemporary gun stock forms, which obviously makes sense because it actually has quite a lot of kick. And I made one quite recently, which was a 450 pound or 470 pound or something hunting crossbow, and you really felt it. You really felt the kick off it. Then we come under here, lovely little scooped out section here for your hand, so that fits really nicely under there. And then again, a trigger guard. Sometimes they're fitted with safeties, sometimes they weren't. This one doesn't have a safety. So I'll strip the trigger down and then we can have a look at what's going on inside, and I'll explain what's going on inside, because it's not entirely obvious. Just going to remove this bow and get this out of the way because we don't need it right now. Tucked away in here, there's a leaf spring, and then there's a second leaf spring here. This one is quite light and gentle, this one is powerful. So I'll just put this back in a position that we can have a look at it. The string is caught here in a notch in the stock, all right? There's a little spring that pushes down on this, not a very powerful spring, but it just allows, when this comes to the shot position, which is there, there's a little spring that presses down here, a leaf spring, and so when that is reloaded, and the string comes in, it hits on here, pushes down, and it just pops back into position. So now the trigger is locked, okay? So the string cannot slide out. But it's this bit which is really interesting for this trigger. So you can just see there's a little interlock here. Yeah, let's try and get that pin out of the way. There's a little interlock here. So we'll pretend that we've shot it, okay? You pull the trigger, it does that, and now that little tiny sear disengages. There is a whopping powerful spring on the back of this lever here. And so what it does is it just goes bonk, and it's like a little hammer, and it hits the end of that lever and opens it to allow the string to fly free. So what I will do is I will just assemble it outside of the bow now so that I can show you how the thing operates. So when you load the bow, what happens is you lift the bow vertically like that, and you squeeze it so that the I don't know what you call that really, the string catch is in the right place. Pull the setting trigger. That's the shooting trigger now. The loading slides that into the right place. I'll show you that. And then to pull it, I'm just going to pull backward on that now, simulating the string action. I just pull the trigger. Oops. Pull the trigger. And it releases. So the last bit I'm going to show you now is about the way the trigger system works when you actually use the lever, and then we'll shoot the thing. You set the trigger. The catch here hasn't moved. It's still in the backward position. Now, I'm going to pretend that this bolt here is the string. As the string pushes back, it comes down into that notch. Well, that's kind of obvious. But as you now start to move the lever back and you start to slacken off, the string comes forward and there is a little sticky uppy bit of the catch here. And as the string comes back forward again, what it does is it doesn't want to come out in that direction because the bow is below the height of the deck. The string is above the deck. And so what it does is it wants to go back in a sort of a slightly downward direction like that, not outward. So what happens then is the string comes down, rests in the notch, and then as you relieve the pressure on the lever, the string moves forward, but forward and sort of downward a little bit, and it does that, and it locks it in. And now, just like this bolt, you can see there's a big gap here, but that doesn't matter because the gap is not big enough to let the string through. And the string is tough. Any of you who've come across my crossbow strings know that actually it's essentially incompressible, you know, with your fingers or anything like that. So basically it just jams up in there and it won't go anywhere. And it won't go anywhere until you pull the trigger and then it releases. And it's as simple as that. So I'll just show you and we'll shoot off a couple of shots. There's a target behind the camera there. First things first, you set the trigger. So the trigger is set now. You can see and you can hear it all move. The catch is in the rear position now. Now you take the lever and you just hook it on the front here. This is not, I find, as easy to use as goat's foot lever, but because it's a sporting bow, not a military one, you're not having to crack out shot after shot very rapidly. Doesn't take a great deal of work. It's a good system. It just pushes back, and now that pressure that I talked about, it's there. Okay, and it's in, and it's engaged. Oops. So we'll flip the bolt clip around. Just hook a bolt under the clip, make sure that's out of the way. Sit the bolt against the string, and it can touch the string here, and then that's it. So, nicely done. We'll go again. Set the trigger. So like I said, it's not quite as easy for me to use as a goat's foot, but it's fine. And then we're ready to go. Nice done. It was really positive, actually. I was very pleased with the way this came out. Spin that around. Bolts on. And so now, you know, the bolt is well caught. There's not a problem with it at all. And then go again. So there we are. So I'll take it out and I'll shoot it now over a slightly longer distance so you can have a look. I'm not going to bother putting this on a chronograph. Fundamentally, it's £200. The guy wanted it to be fairly lightweight. And a £200 steel bow is not really very efficient. So it's fun and it's going to be great, but you're not going to be knocking down deer with this. Got a target set up 12 yards away, nothing big really. So, set the trigger. Get the lever on it. This is called a whip lever or a gaff lever. They got various names really. Pushes down. Nice positive click. Bolt clip around. Now you can do all this process with the sights up if you want. You don't have to fold them away. The fold down is just for storage really. So that's it. Set again. I guess I'm also not used to using these bows with the whip lever and or gaffle. So I guess I'm going to get a bit handier with it if I used one more often really. Like I say, it's a very Germanic thing. I don't think these were really very popular here in the UK. Or Britain, of course, as it was then. Set the trigger. But I do like the trigger system. I do like the way it works. I do wonder about string wear a little bit because you are pushing down onto the deck. So the fact is this has got a polished bone deck, which is obviously good for friction and for string wear. But I do think that you want to keep the string waxed fairly often. A bit like a modern bow really, which seems that you wax every 10 shots or something. Yeah. And there you have it. That is the German Schenpper Crossbow. Late 17th, 18th century. Nice sophisticated trigger on it. Lovely little hunting bow. Really fun to use actually. A nice bit of kit. Thank you. Thanks for watching.